Hello everyone and welcome back to the Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo channel. I'm Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tishney, and once again I'm going to take you through this week's daily races to help you get the best times and hopefully help you improve your driver rating. So this week is a speed week essentially. We have 3 very fast circuits and a couple of very interesting cars. Now first up is the Honda NSX Type R and we're at Grand Valley Highway. This car is a very tricky car to drive, and we're going to do what we always do on this video. We're going to go through a very slow mode, detailed lap, just explaining where to brake, where to accelerate, and how to handle the car. We'll go into a fast lap, and then once again we'll look at the fantastic Delta app to see where we can improve on our lap, which will hopefully show where you can also improve on your lap. First of all then, let's jump into this lap, and let me tell you how to go fast at Grand Valley Highway in this Honda NSX Type R. Here we are then on the start finish straight. We're on the right hand side. This is to give us the best angle of attack for this turn 1. And what we're looking for here is that 400 board right there. Now the closer you get to it, arguably the later or deeper you're going to go into this corner. So it's better to brake early. And I advise braking at this moment in time, okay? I'm just before the 400 board. I'm going to brake. And I'm going to brake in a straight line. So this corner goes around to the left into the right. But if I go in a diagonal, I'm braking in a straight line. Remember, braking efficiency, 100% of it, only happens if you're in a straight line. And that's what I'm going to try and do right here. I'm going to go hard on the brakes. I'm going to aim towards that inside corner. And that's all we're going to do right now. So notice this, straight towards it, 100% braking. We're not really turning. We're then going to start to release brakes as we get here. The car's going to then want to rotate. Now, if you're struggling to get rotation, you can drop to second gear if you so wish. Drop it to second gear will just rotate the car that little bit more. Critically though, for the exit, you are going to want to be in third gear. And that's what I've done right now. I've stayed in third gear and I'm looking for this sand to concrete on the right hand side. When I see this, I want to get to it. What I want to do then is to start accelerating. Now, you may need to lift off a little bit. If you're just not getting enough rotation, that's fine, as long as you're moving forward. So if you're 100% or 80% throttle, that's absolutely fine, as long as you're moving forward. You're not in the power band straight away here. At 53 miles an hour, you're not in the power band. But watch what I do right now. I just keep on throttle here. And if I was scared about the wall there or the barrier on the left-hand side, I'd lift off a little bit, but I'm not. Now I'm in the power band, the car starts to accelerate and really starts to pull at this moment in time. What we're going to do now is stick to this left-hand side, okay? We're going to follow the little bit of concrete here on the left, just over the white line here on the left. Now we've got this bridge coming up, and on the left-hand side, we have the structure for the bridge. It's right above my head. This is a lift-off marker. Now, I don't want you to lift off 100%. Lift off to down to around 20% is fine. If you lift off 100%, so you're down to 0, you're not doing anything, the car's going to want to oversteer and do some funky stuff. If you brake, it's even worse. Do not brake for this corner. Just make sure you lift off, okay? Now, if you are struggling with some oversteer due to the power band, you can go up to 5th gear, but that will cause some understeer, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to lift off a little bit, and what I'm going to do, I'm turning in. I'm turning in very gently, very smoothly. Notice there on the throttle application, I don't go to 0. I'm around 10% right there. I then start to increase it. The car's wanted to oversteer a little bit, but now I get in a straight line. I can then go towards the left-hand side here. And what we're going to be looking for next are 2 markers. We've got the 400 board, which is on the left-hand side there, or the tree on the right. Now, you brake it before you get to these. Now, as you've gone through that left-hander, what you'll find is the rear is going to be a bit twitchy. Now, if you're sliding a little bit, hard on the brake, a little bit of throttle. That'll stop the oversteer, just force some understeer, and hopefully start that braking efficiency. If you're already in a straight line and you don't need to do that, just hard on the brakes at this moment in time. Now, what you want to do here is you want to get on the inside of this corner quite quickly because it dips down. If you've ever done it in reverse, you'll know that if you go in too tight too soon on the reverse side, it forces you all over the place. But this time, it helps you. So, hard on the brakes right now. We're going to drop to second gear. We're going to start to release the brakes because we really need to get a car turned in. And we're going to let the car roll a little bit initially, okay? And notice there, as we've gone through the compression, the car rotated, and then we go on throttle. We want to straighten our steering as quick as we can. You can see the red dot of the steering just moving towards the center there, just to avoid any power oversteer in second gear. So we get to the end of that sector 1, and on the right hand side here, we've got this long concrete barrier there. Now, this is actually a double apex corner. Effectively is a double apex corner. Arguably, you don't normally hit the first apex because you sort of keep it in the middle, preparing for the next part of the corner. Now, this is all about braking, but bleeding the speed off slowly, okay? So you're going to brake, but just softly, like 10-20%. Just slowly bleed the speed off, okay? That's all I want you to do. And the reason you do that is because you want to carry the speed and then control the car as it goes in. If you hard brake now, you're just going to be rolling and doing nothing. So you can maintain a bit more speed there. I've got a bit high on braking there. Notice there then I'm not doing anything, but you could just reduce it a little bit. Now, once the car's slow down enough, it's around 70 miles an hour, the car will then turn in and you can accelerate through the corner. We clip the right-hand side concrete there. We head over towards this sort of parking area, essentially. You got the lanes on the right. This is a parking area. Now, once you're in this section, you brake here. Now, I have no marker here for this. All I'm doing is making sure I'm in this center bit. Once my car is fully in this parking area, I'm then going to hit the brakes and then let the car roll into the corner. You get some rotation. It's kind of nice. Just be careful about cutting the inside a bit too much. I did that a couple of times and it's just a bit annoying. So just make sure you're in this. You can see this on chase cam. I'm inside this parking area and then dabbing the brakes here. Trail brake in, release the brakes. And then try to get on power, but I can't yet. Once I then get to this point here, I start accelerating and then I'm instantly going onto the brakes. Now there's this fence that goes around the outside. Some of you, depending on the monitor screen, the TV screen you're using, will not be able to see this due to the lighting. This is the marker I can see, so I use this marker, okay? Just think about the bridge or the gantry you've just gone under. Use that as a marker if you're struggling, but this is the perfect marker on the right-hand side. We're going to hit the brakes. We're going to go down to second gear. And when we go to second gear, the car will want to rotate left because we're turning left. Once it starts that rotation, release the brakes and let the car roll just a little bit longer than you normally would, okay? And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm on the brakes, on the brakes, on the brakes. Now release. Watch it. I'm rolling. The car rotated fine, and then I can start accelerating. If you go from brake to accelerating straight away, what happens is you actually get some understeer and then you're just going to run wide and have dirt on your tires. So just be careful of that on that left-hander. We continue on accelerating now and we're going to approach this 100 board. Now, I want you to think back to turn 1. Now, remember when we went left slightly and then in a diagonal towards the right-hander? This is the same thing. So the track goes right here, but I don't want you to follow it all the way to the right. I want you to start pointing towards the inside of the corner. And that's what I'm going to do here. The 100 board is my brake marker. I brake just before I get to it. Now, you're going to want to go to second gear, and I highly advise you go to third gear in the middle of the corner and start accelerating. Once again, you're not going to be in the power band initially, but it gives you some stability, and then you'll instantly be in the power band because you go a little bit downhill. Watch. So we're hard on the brakes as we get towards the corner. We drop to second gear. We just trail brake a little bit, and then we're going to let the car just rotate. Rotate. I then short shift to third gear, and now I can start accelerating. I'm now in the power band. It took a little bit of time to get there, and then we're going to go on the brakes a little bit. Notice there, we're just dabbing the brakes, letting the car rotate. Now, we have marshals on the right-hand side. There's 3 of them. We also have the water cans there, canisters, whatever you want to call them. This is your accelerating marker. So when you get to this point, even if you're accelerating 20%, you're still moving forward. So use that as your accelerating marker. Start to accelerate at this moment in time, okay? Again, even if it's just a small acceleration, it's fine. I'm going to try and get quite aggressive here to start accelerating. You can lift off and come out of it. So you go from 100 to 80%. I'm pretty sure that's what I do at this moment in time in this corner, just because I feel like I'm going to understeer into the wall on the outside. So let's see what happens. So 100, back down to about 80, 100, oh, 90, 100, went 90, 95, then 100. But you can see there we've used all the circuit, but I'm still moving forward. And that's critical with this one. It's all about applying a little bit more throttle rather than rolling just to get round on most of these corners, with the exceptions where I've said roll a bit longer. Just keep that in mind when you're doing this. Right, we're going to head to quite a complex corner now, which is this right-hander in the tunnel. So we've got the 200 board. We also have in a distance where the barrier sort of just veers off to the left slightly. That's obviously for the reverse circuit, so you've got a bit of a run off there, but we can use that as a marker. It's a brilliant marker. Now, for this corner, you're going to go down to second gear for this corner, okay? It's a second gear corner, and you want to keep a nice tight line. The reason for that is when you go on throttle, it's going to rotate a bit more, so it keeps you on the tight line. And that's critical because the final corner, or the final chicane should I say, is a very difficult corner to get right, and you want the maximum angle of attack. So we're hard on the brakes right now. We're going to drop to second gear. We'll start to release the brakes now because we're approaching the corner, and then we're just letting the car roll a little bit and then on throttle. Notice there how I'm trying to keep the car moving with that 25%, then up to 50%. I'm trying to get the car rotated, and notice how far to the right I am now for the chicane that's about to come up. So the end of the tunnel, you can see the concrete there on the right side, then goes into the cliff. This is your brake marker. Now what I want you to do is arguably drift a little bit here. So when you dab the brakes and you turn left, it's going to rotate. You want that rotation. You want to try and straight line a bit of this chicane. The problem with this chicane is you have bollards on the left and on the right. If you touch them, you get a track limit penalty. If you touch them, you graze them, whatever you want to call it, you'll get a track limit penalty. You have to be careful. Don't do this too well. We'll do it well. Very, very annoying to say that, I know. So you can see them on the left-hand side. We avoid them. We can then start accelerating. Now we're going to short shift to third gear as we approach this curb. Do that. It will give you some stability on the exit. If you're in second gear, what happens is you're in the power band. The car's going to rotate round and you're going to end up in the wall. Don't do that. Short shift to third gear. It's just better for you. Now we can continue on towards the tunnel. So maximum revs there as we stick towards the right-hand side. we're then going to go to left. Why are we still in slow-mo? Well, this tunnel is a very difficult corner to get right, as you're about to see. So we go towards the left-hand side. We're about to enter the tunnel. We're going to struggle to see. Now we're just going to slowly turn into this, okay? Notice there, I didn't go past really where the rev was at the time with the red dot. You have to be so smooth with the steering. It's not a case of just yanking it right. It's really smooth, because if you yank it right, the rear's just going to flick round and then you'll crash. And I actually crashed twice in that tunnel right there. Twice. It was very annoying. Right, we're going to head towards the line, and that's 202.682. Let's go into a fast lap then. Remember, looking for the 400 board. On the brakes we go. Diagonal braking. Start to release brakes as we get to here. You can drop to second gear if you so wish. Third gear is what I stay in. Dirt to concrete there is when we start to accelerate. We continue on out of that corner. We're going to head down the hill now. We're going to stick towards this left-hand side. We're looking for the tunnel structure there. Sorry, bridge structure there. We lift off and we start to turn in. Notice that we're trying to control the car with the throttle. We maintain 120 there, which is kind of nice. Over towards the left-hand side. Just before the 400 or the tree, we hit the brakes. Braking in a straight line. Drop to second gear. Start to release the brakes. Get the car turned in. Let it roll a little bit as we get to the compression. Then we can start accelerating. Straighten up the steering. Head over towards the right-hand side. The concrete barrier around the right. That is our brake mark. Remember, just dabbing the brakes now. Just trying to bleed the speed off the car as we go into this corner. Now we can start to accelerate. Make sure we don't cut too much. Head over towards the left hand side where the parking is, and then we can start to brake. So we turn back in. We're going to accelerate a little bit. Then they start the fence on the right hand side. We then hit the brake second gear. Let it roll a little bit more than normal. Then start to accelerate, because we don't want to run too wide there and get dirt on our tires. We continue following this right. Remember, diagonal braking for this one. 100 pull is our brake marker. Hard on the brakes. Drop to second gear. Let the car rotate a little bit. Then we're going to short shift to third gear. We're going to continue on accelerating. Then we're going to dab the brakes. Over towards the right hand side we go. Looking for those marshals. We're going to accelerate through the corner now, and just be careful about running too wide there. Remember, you come off the throttle a little bit. That's absolutely fine as we now go across this bridge. Looking for the 200 board or where the barrier is in now. We're going to go hard on the brakes down towards second gear. Here we go. Third gear, second gear, and then start to release the brakes. Keep an eye out line. A little bit on throttle here. Trying to maintain the speed as we go up the hill. Tunnel to cliff is our dab of the brakes. So there, we're getting it left. Accelerate, short shift to third gear as we go through the right. Just keep it nice and stable. Now continue on towards the tunnel. Remember, in the tunnel, I'll grab my steering wheel now. You're going to go smooth, okay? It's smooth. It's not harsh. It's smooth. Watch as we do this now. We're going to go into the tunnel, and then we're going to smooth it around there, and then straighten up the steering as best as we can using all of the circuit. We're going to head towards the line, and once again, remember, this was a 0.6 in terms of a 202.6. What we're going to do next then is we're going to jump to Delta, because there's some very fast laps on the leaderboards, and we need to see where we need to improve. Here we are then in Delta, and we've loaded a 202.036. That's a very fast lap, 0.6 of a second quicker than my lap. So plenty of time to find here, and we need to find where my weaknesses are. My weaknesses are going to be your weaknesses, or more than likely will be your weaknesses as well, and together we can learn to improve. That's the goal here then. So we're going to head towards turn number 1 as we go into here. And as we go through there, we lost a little bit of time. There's nothing major there. 0.5 of a second. I'd argue that's all about just getting on the throttle that little bit earlier. That's all I need to do there. We're going to continue on down the hill then. And as we get to here, this is the fast right into left. We lost a little bit more there. So is there anything we could do here? I'm off throttle a little bit earlier. They dabbed the brakes a little bit. Very dangerous to do that, but they've controlled it very well. They've gone up to 5th gear. That's to reduce some of that oversteer, potentially. But you can see here, they're just carrying that a little bit more speed as we go down here then. But we start to match up as we go through here. And that's because I'm in 4th gear and they're in 5th gear. That's all that is. Now, we're going to have better engine braking here, but we're on the brakes that little bit earlier. And as we go through here, we lose a significant amount of time in this corner. So let's actually watch this then. So we're on the brakes a bit earlier. So we start to come down the speed here as we get to this point here. Look at that 6 miles an hour difference. So we've lost a lot of time there. A lot of time. Now they go out wider on the exit. I can see that with the yellow dotted line. And yeah, we just need to carry a bit more speed. We need to brake a little bit later, close to that 400 board that I was talking about. And we should be able to get through there a little bit better. Taking a slightly less tight line, but trying to carry more speed. On the exit then, we are carrying more speed. So arguably that gap's coming down a little bit, but we still lose a tenth there. A tenth just from not being aggressive enough. So potentially that's what we're going to struggle on this entire lap. Let's just see though, as we come through here, we lose a tenth of a second through here as well. So we're on the brakes. As we get to this point here, they're carrying more speed. Still carrying more speed. We're now carrying more speed. They're carrying more speed. And they're carrying more speed through there. So we're just carrying a bit too much speed in the middle of the corner. Remember the rule, slow in, fast out. Well, arguably they're a little bit faster in. Then they're slower in the middle of the corner. And then they're faster out. So we just need to carry a bit more speed in. then slow the car down, and then carry it through. So that's all that will be. It's not really a weakness there. That's just an improvement, in my opinion. And as we go through there, we lose a little bit of time, but we get it back, actually, on the exit there. So we are carrying a bit more speed on the exit. Again, that's just from delaying that throttle a little bit, I'm sure. So if we go through here... No, we just get a better line. Just better line. I thought it would be that, but this is what Delta's awesome for, okay? So we get to this point here, we're slightly tighter. No, they're slightly tighter, so they're just going to have a bit of a worse exit there. That's very interesting indeed. Right, so we're 4.5 temps down. So we've got 2 temps to find, which is going to be in this last sector, I'm sure. As we go through there, we don't lose any time through that section. We do that very nicely indeed. We're going to head towards the tunnel then, as we go into here. So 4 temps down. Look at that. Even when we get to the exit of the tunnel, we lose so much time here. So we're on the brakes early as well, actually. Look at this. So we are 3 miles an hour down. They're just carrying so much more speed into the corners. They really are. And then we go on to the throttle. We've now got a bit more speed, but they're just being more aggressive on the throttle. They're controlling that slide so much better. That's really interesting to see. So then we get to the chicane. And if you look down here on the map as well, look at the yellow line there. They are literally taking a much better line than I am. Much better line. So that gives them a much better line through the chicane. That's going to carry them more speed. And that's going to be where yeah, look, that's where the rest of the time is. So this is where our main improvement needs to be, I'm going to say. And this is where you probably need to focus on as well. Just carrying a bit more speed into the tunnel. Keep it nice and tight. Keep it as far right as possible to give you the best chance through the chicane. Because when we get to the exit here, yes, we're similar speeds. That doesn't matter at that point. But it's all about carrying the speed in the middle. Because look at this. They're just carrying more speed. 2 miles an hour, 2 miles an hour. It's an even. But as we get to the exit, it's even again. Now, as we go into the tunnel, I can't imagine there's much difference there because we're flat out. There isn't. But this is a critical part here. This tunnel into the chicane section, somewhere where I definitely need to improve. There are other areas I need to improve on. For example, just being a bit more aggressive on the braking in terms of braking that a little bit later. Definitely some time to be gained there. We can see that in this corner right here. We can see that through here as well. Just carrying a bit more speed will actually benefit us quite a lot. That's going to be it then for this Honda NSX Type R at Grand Valley Highway. We're going to jump to Monza next. Of course, it's the fan favourite Monza Turn 1 action. But of course, we're interested in the time trial. We are in Group 3 machinery. Let's find out exactly what we're in. Here we are then at Monza, and I'm in the Dodge Viper SRT GT3R down in the bottom right there. +5 brake balance as well, for those wondering what my brake balance is. We head towards turn 1, long straight this, and we're looking for that right there, the 150 board. Literally, in any Group 3 car, it's either going to be at it, before it, or just after it. We're braking at it here in the Dodge Viper, okay? We're going to brake in a straight line all the way to the chicane. We're going to drop to first gear. And what we're going to try and do is cut a little bit of the first chicane by straddling the sausage on the inside. Now, when we get to the second part of the chicane, what will happen is we want to short shift to second gear and just try and get it rotated to then have a straight line out of the corner, a bit like a dragster, essentially. So, hard on the brakes we go then. We're going to go all the way down to first gear. And as we get to first gear, we start to release the brakes, we turn in. We look to straddle the sausage, which we do perfectly. We accelerate a little bit, then we tab the brakes, we go to second gear. Now, look what I'm trying to do with the throttle. I'm 50% throttle, then 100. The reason for that is if you go from 0 to 100, you may get some wheel spin. If you go 50 to 100, you get less wheel spin because there's less to go to full power. The wheels are already loaded. They're already gripped up a little bit. So try and do that as you exit that chicane. It's really critical you do that because that way you reduce wheel spin, your car just accelerates forward rather than just stood there spinning its wheels. We get to the next chicane then on the right hand side, just after the 150 board here, we have the painted barrier. You could use that as a brake marker. However, I was using the escape road, which is just a little bit further ahead, a little bit harder to see, but when you're racing, you can actually see it a little bit better. So for this one, similar to the first chicane, you want to straddle the first sausage. Now the second sausage is bigger on this particular chicane, so you do have to be careful with it. However, the Viper handles sausages very well. So you're going to go down to second gear for this one. It's not a first gear chicane, it's a second gear chicane. Watch how I do it now as we go hard on the brakes. So dropping the gears now down towards second gear, we start to release the brakes. We turn in. Notice how we straddle the sausage. We accelerate a little bit, we go up to third gear now. We go over the sausage a little bit, then we're going to continue on through. Now if you touch the gravel a little bit, don't worry about it. Just keep going straight there. The car will power through the gravel. However, you don't really want to touch it, so staying on the curb. We've done it very nice there indeed. Right, behind my head, we have the 50 board. The 50 board there is your brake marker for the first Lesmo. What I want you to do here is when you get to this moment in time, I want you to hit the brakes. You're going to drop to third gear, but I want you to take a wider line than normal, okay? So normally, dart it in there, but if you take a wider line, you can go for a later apex, and arguably you're squaring off the corner and getting a better exit, which is critical, okay? We also have an accelerating marker in the middle of this corner, which I'm going to show you. I've mentioned it before, but we're going to go into more detail now when we get to this moment in time. So third gear, we turn in then. Let's say we're going for the later apex. We still not hit it. Now we touch the curb, and look at that. We're looking for this escape road right here. This escape road is the perfect accelerating marker on Lesmo 1. Literally, you see it, you start accelerating. As long as you touch the curb around this moment in time, the car will rotate round and you will make it round the exit. It really won't understeer because the curb drags the car around. Obviously, as you accelerate, the car rotates as well. Everything points to a perfect exit of this corner, using that as your accelerating marker, and that's what I'm using right now. So it's a really key accelerating marker here at Monza. So we continue on out of here, third gear. We'll go up to fourth gear, of course, on the exit. And notice that we don't want the slippy stuff on the left-hand side. However, the Viper can handle some of this slippy stuff. Now we get to this point here. I've highlighted a row of trees on the right, the very first one there. As that first one disappears off the edge of your screen, you can use that as a brake marker. However, I'm going to try and get closer to that 50 board and use that as a brake marker instead. I can't brake at it, but I can get closer to it and then hit the brakes. Now, on the inside, there's a very, very raised curb. You can clip that in the Viper and accelerate through it, and you can actually run a little bit wider as well in the Viper. Some cars you can't run wide. You touch the slippy stuff, you go flying. The Viper can handle it very nicely. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to go on the brakes, down to third gear, release the brakes, turn in. We're going to go onto the curb, and look at this. We start accelerating. Wasn't 100% throttle. It's about 75%-ish, but we're fine. Now, I don't run wide this time, but you can run a bit wider there and actually survive in the Viper. However, it's a bit slower if you are on the slippy stuff because, of course, the wheel doesn't have as much traction, so it's harder to accelerate. We're heading up to Ascari then now at full pace here. Now, you have all these brake markers, but we're not using any of them. We're using the painted barrier on the right and also the escape road just up ahead there. You can use either of these as brake markers. Now, Ascari is a really interesting corner in the Viper especially as well, because it's very easy to turn in too early here and compromise the right, which then compromises the left, and then the second straight here at Monza. So instead, what I want you to do here is focus on the first part of Ascari. Really slow the car down. Take a wider line in, clip the curb on the inside, and set yourself up for the right and left to carry that speed and momentum through the corner. So that's what we're doing here. Hard on the brakes, third gear, we then start to release. Notice we're going to go on the curb here, and then we'll start accelerating. We're going to short shift to fourth gear. Now we've got a nice line through Ascari. We can now balance the throttle. Notice there we went to about 75%, and because we're not turning massively, because we're taking a nice line, easy angle of attack, we get to the left and we can just turn and the car turns. If you're really turning the wheel full on to get around the right part of the Ascari, what you find is that the weight transfer doesn't happen for the left and you just understeer off. Take it nice and smooth by going a bit slow for the first part, the left, then handling the right nicely to then give you a perfect line for the left again, the final part. You can get through Ascari very quickly and carry a lot of speed and time. Right, we're going to get to the Parabolica then. On the left hand side we have the 100 board. This is your final brake marker. I usually brake just after that disappears off the edge of your screen. Now for the Parabolica, I do like to start off wide and come in nice and tight and then stay tight at the Parabolica. It's a long, long right-hander. It's effectively a hairpin here because you can see it on the map. It's literally down, we do the hairpin, and then we go back up. We're following our same situation. So we're going to brake, we're going to trail brake the last little bit in third gear just to get the car on the inside nice, and it just allows us to bleed off a bit more speed. So hard on the brakes now, we get to fourth gear, third gear, notice the trail braking now, trail brake, and then we keep to a nice tight line. What I'm looking for is that right there, another acceleration marker. This is the second lamppost on the right, which is like I'm a taxi driver. Yeah, just drop me off there, second lamppost on the right. Same thing here. There's the second lamppost, that's when I accelerate. Now, you may struggle with a bit of understeer in some cars, not all the cars, but when you see this, this is when you start to accelerate. You're trying to carry the momentum. Now, hopefully, in the Viper in third gear, what happens is the rear just sets down a little bit and it'll just rotate a tiny bit. And that's all you need to get around the Parabolica flat out. If you have to lift, you lift. However, I don't go 100% there straight away. And watch what happens here, because I was a bit too tentative on the throttle. Notice all the track on the left-hand side still in use, or still to be used. I could have gone flat out earlier and actually improved my lap time that little bit more. And we'll see that on Delta when we get to it shortly, whether that's true or not. So 148.756 there. Let's go into a fast lap then at Monza. Remember what we're looking for here. Turn number 1, the 150 board on the left-hand side. Where is it? There it is. All the way down to first gear now. Hard on the brakes. Release the brakes, turn in, straddle the sausage, accelerate a little bit, brake, second gear, then look to start accelerating. Remember, 50%, then 100% as you go through the corner. Just means you've got less power to go in terms of getting the wheels going there. Through the curve of Grande here, we're going to head to the second chicane. The second chicane, remember, it's after the 150 board. We're looking for the painted barrier or the escape road. So there's a 200, there's a 150, there's the painted barrier if you want to use that. Second gear, start to release brake, straddle the sausage, accelerate up to third gear. And notice there, we can actually hit the sausage in the Viper. It doesn't actually impact it too much. Other cars impact massively. 50 board on the left is our brake marker, trail brake, trail brake, trail brake. Escape road, start to accelerate. Continue on through the corner. Start of the row and trees on the right side there, or just before the 50 board, we hit the brakes, turn in, clip the curb, start to accelerate through the corner. Settle yourself down now as we head towards Ascari. Remember what I said about Ascari, okay? Over slow for the first part to give yourself a better exit. Slow in, fast out. Very, very, very overused statement, but it's critical here at Ascari. So there's the escape road. We hit the brakes, third gear, release the brakes, turn in. Now we've got a good angle of attack, fourth gear, lift off a little bit just to get the car around. Now we can settle ourselves, through the left we go, and we continue on to the back straight then and head in towards the Parabolica. Parabolica, once again, the 100 board. We're going to brake just after the 100 board at the Parabolica. This then will mean we're going to go hard on the brakes, and then we'll trail brake in. Here we go, hard on the brakes. Trail brake now, the third gear. Second lamppost on the right, there it is. We can start to accelerate. Be aggressive on the throttle there. That's where you can gain some time. And arguably, obviously, for the next lap, if you're aggressive, you carry more speed into the next lap. You can go a little bit quicker. That's again a 148.7. Let's jump into Delta then, and let's see where I can improve that little bit more. Here we are then in Delta. I've loaded the 148.379, which is on the leaderboard at the moment. As of the time of recording, rank 1 in the world. So let's see where we're losing time versus rank 1. They're in the Viper as well. So let's kick this off straight away. We're going to head towards turn 1. And we're not really down there. It's about even here as we head towards turn 1. On the brakes, I'm on the brakes a little bit earlier than they are. And carrying the speed down. Notice I am braking earlier than them, and I've literally got less speed. So coming into here, lost a little bit of time. And as we go through there to the exit, lost a tenth of a second. And that's just from braking that little bit early. Arguably then, let's brake a little bit later. So we're braking at the 150 board. Remember what I said? Brake just after it now. Maybe I will gain a little bit of time there. So we go through there, and I mean, we lost a little bit on the exit, but not too much there. So yeah, so we're like 0.1 of a mile an hour down there. We're going to head to the next chicane, and once again, run the brakes a bit earlier than they are. Although we are a similar speed at this moment in time as we get there. So we're, what, 1.5 temps down as we go through there. And we're 2.5 temps down at the end of it. So I've really lost a lot of time here. So as we get to the first part, that's not too bad at all. But we get to the second part. Look at that. They've just carried a lot more speed on the second part. They've gone ultra aggressive there through the chicane. And they're carrying 3 miles an hour more speed. You get some a tenth a second. So I need to be more aggressive on the second part. The risk of that, though, is obviously a track limit penalty. And I do have to be careful of that. We get to Lesbo 1 then. Now, Lesbo 1, we're 2.5 temps down. We go through there. We don't really lose too much there. I'm not too worried about that corner at all there, really. It looks like they go for an even wider line. And as we get towards the exit, I'm carrying more speed. So I've just gone a bit quicker at the exit. They went a bit quicker at the entrance. Nothing major here. Now, Lesmo 2. Let's have a look at this one. Now, we do lose... No, we don't lose time. We're actually gaining it back on the straight. So once again, no real worries there at all. We get to this point here. Yeah, we're just carrying more speed. So slow in, fast out. We're about equal there. No worries at all. Now, Ascari is going to be the interesting one. So we go on the brakes first here. We go through the right, then the left, and we do lose a little bit of time there. So they're just being more aggressive. You can see here. So I'm 6 miles an hour down. So they are obviously braking a lot later than I am. They're being more aggressive on the turn-in. So they're trail braking that little bit longer. Now, if we have a look at the racing line for this one as well, in terms of what they're doing. So we're following the same line. They just carried more speed on that first part, which is where all the time is. Look at this. On the braking, so it starts at 3 temps. As we get to the apex, it's 4 temps. I just need to carry more speed into Ascari. That's all that is. So you can see here, taking a little bit more risk here at Monza does benefit from some reward there. We head towards the Parabolica then, 4.5 temps down. We go through the Parabolica, and we actually do the Parabolica much better than they do. Much better. And you can see here, again, in terms of throttle, yeah, we're carrying so much more speed. So there's a lot of time in their lap there as well then. Another temp. So we're looking at very, very, very low 48 here in terms of Monza. 148.3 is the world record, and there's still time in the lap, as we've just seen. You can also see there at the end, they go to the far right-hand side, very close to the pit wall, just to limit down that time a little bit more. So interestingly here at Monza, take more risks, get more reward. That's what we've seen right there. Of course, that comes with the risk of an invalid lap and track limit penalties. That's it for Daily Race B then. Let's jump to Daily Race C, where we're going to St. Croix, Layout B, and we are in Group 4 machinery, but only front engine and rear-wheel drive. So here we are on the start-finish straight, and I'm in the Toyota GR Supra race car down there, plus 5 brake balance once again. That I'm using here in Group 4 machinery. We're going to head towards Turn 1 then, and our first brake marker, nice, big, and obvious right in front of us here, the 100 board. So as the 100 board disappears off the top of my screen, I'm going to hit the brake. Now, this corner has a unique trick to it that I'm going to explain right now. So, it technically is a 4th gear corner. However, if you drop to 3rd gear, this car loves to rotate just that little bit more. And you need a little bit of rotation in this because it does like a little bit of understeer. So what we're going to do, we're going to hit the brakes. We're going to drop down to 4th gear. And as we start to turn in, we're going to drop to 3rd gear, which arguably is going to be top of the rev range. However, that will cause some rotation. Watch this. So 4th gear, release the brakes. We drop to 3rd gear. Notice how the car turns. And then we're going to go back up to 4th gear. We go on the slippy stuff a little bit on the inside. However, that small rotation there helps us massively going through the corner. As we continue on out of there then, we are all said and done. And what we'll do is go towards the next corner. You can use the slippy stuff on the inside there, but don't go all 4 wheels on it. You'll just slide off and get a track limit penalty. It's just about clipping it and just maximizing the angle of the corner. Or minimizing the angle of the corner effectively. I say maximizing, it's reducing the angle of the corner. Right, we get to this left-hander then. We've got the 100 board and the start of the curb here. Both are your brake markers. You can use either of these. You know, you can brake in just after the start of the curb, arguably where the red and white curbing starts, or just after the 100 board disappears off the edge of your screen. They happen at the exact same time. Now, for this corner, I don't want you to turn in too early. It's a very, very common problem to do, is turn in too early because it's off camber, and then you understeer off, or you get a whole load of oversteer because you're just overturning by doing this. So instead, what I want you to do here is stay out to the right a little bit longer than normal, towards where the 50 board is, then start to turn in now as I release the brakes. That way it's one smooth corner. I've gone over the inside and I can accelerate out. Watch what I do here. I straighten up a little bit here, a little bit of a lift there. That's just to bounce the car. But we continue on through here. This is actually a very quick sector 1 then. This is a 0.6 there. 0.5s are possible in sector 1, but they are the perfect sector 1. We're going to head down here then. This is a downhill section. I love this section, by the way. It's like an S's, and it's one of those where you're dropping a gear at the same time as turning. It's great. So on the left-hand side here, we've got the painted barrier. We're going to start to turn it in. You could do this flat. However, I'm going to have to lift a little bit here because it was early in the morning. I'm still getting used to this combination. And we get to this point here. 3 marshals on the right-hand side. So we did this first corner in 5th gear. So what we're going to do now is going to hit the brakes and drop to 4th gear. So we're going to tap the brakes, 4th gear, and get ready for the left-hander. After the left-hander, we've got another corner where we're going to go 3rd gear. So it's 5th, 4th, 3rd. 5th, 4th, 3rd. Just remember that in your head. 5th, 4th, 3rd. You've got it. So that's what we're going to do here. The marshals on the right side, perfect brake marker. And you want to stay as far left as possible as well for this part. The reason for that is that the right on the bridge is very critical to get right. More so than this left-hander. So it's better to overslope this left-hander, which is what I'm doing now. Staying towards the left-hand side. Don't go over the curb there. Just get close to it. And notice how far left we are right now. So this gives us the perfect angle of attack for the bridge. So you got 2 markers. You've got the painted barrier and you've also got the tarmac there in the middle. I use the tarmac if you want to know which one I use. Now, I've just hit the brakes. I'm in 3rd gear. A wider angle of attack on this corner is better than a tighter angle. If you go tight, you're going to overturn this and there's a bump in the middle of it and you'll get oversteer and you have to correct it and you may end up in the barrier. If you attack it from a wider angle, you've got less of turn on the steering wheel, and what happens then is the bump doesn't impact the car as much and you can just accelerate through the corner. So that's what I'm trying to do now. Notice here the wider angle of attack. I then get closer to the curb. I can then straighten up a bit more on the exit. Notice there the bump, which is very violent indeed, and we can continue on. I still have a little bit of a wiggle, but nowhere near as dramatic as if I'd taken a much tighter angle. So we're going to continue now. By the way, look at the consistency on the right side on those laps. 220.086, 220.020. All using these markers that I'm explaining right now. Very consistent. Consistency is key when you are improving. And here we go. So we're 1.5 temps up at the moment. Happy days indeed. Right, towards the end of the bridge then, we've got a couple of brake markers that we can use, but there's one in particular that I use, and it's right there. It's the give way sign, okay? It's right behind my head, which I've removed at the moment. But literally, just after that disappears off your screen, you're going to hit the brakes. You can use the 100 board in the distance that I've highlighted. Arguably, it's a bit too late to use that. However, some of you will prefer that just as a bit of a distance marker, and, well, I'll highlight it there for you. There's also a marshal on the right-hand side that I haven't highlighted. I don't really pay attention to that marshal that much. However, if you want to use that marshal, they're there. You can hit the brakes when they are on the edge of your screen as well. So we're going to hit the brakes. We're going to stay out wide as long as possible. And this corner has a bump in it as well. So it's all about squaring it off. So we stay out wide longer here. And then we start to turn in. Notice then we join the racing line. We're then going to accelerate. Watch the bump here as I go through. There's the bump. It can get very violent. You can correct it and instantly go into the barrier. So you don't want to correct it. You just want to keep turning and make sure you're not turning too much on the steering wheel. That is the critical part of that. Or on the controller, of course. So we're staying towards the left-hand side now as we go down this hill. I've just stopped it right here. Now, on the right side, you're going, Tid, you've highlighted a tree. How does that help? Well, there's a gap. This is a row of trees, a new start of row of trees. This is a perfect little dab of the brakes to start your turn in. You want to start turning in when that tree hits the edge of your screen on the right-hand side. Now, I've highlighted in the distance as well. There's also a dark piece of tarmac you can use. That was initially my distance marker, but then I noticed the trees and was like, I can be more consistent here. That tree is a perfect marker, and that's what I'm going to use now. So I'm going to dab the brakes and then we're just going to let the car turn in. And it's all about trying to carry as much speed as possible. Okay, so I'm a little bit on the throttle here, trying to get the car to turn in, lifting off, on, off, on, off. And now I'm looking for that blue light barrier. When I see that, I start to accelerate. And the reason I start to accelerate is because I know that's the exit of the corner. And I can actually make it there. Very close to the barrier, so sometimes you might just graze it, but that is my accelerating marker there. I start to see it, I go, okay, I can go. Obviously, this will vary on a per car basis, but I have not stopped it this time on that one. But the blue light barrier, when it comes into actual vision, that is the marker to look out for as an accelerating marker. Right, we're going to head to the right-hander now. And on the left-hand side here, we've got the 150 board. Brake just after that. It's very easy to brake too early for this corner. A lot of people get this corner wrong. And the reason for it is because it's quite a tight corner if you do it wrong. So a lot of people brake early, turn in, think it's sharper than it actually is, struggle on the exit, and then have a really slow next sector. What you actually need to do is brake later, square the corner off, and just absolutely bolt out of the corner, and it actually feels more wide, more open, and just easier to do. And that's what we're doing here. So it's after the 150 board on the left-hand side. We're going to hit the brakes. We're going to go down to third gear, and then we're going to trail brake. We're going to trail brake, okay? So watch this now. Third gear, we start to trail brake. Now we start to turn in. And because we've nailed this better, notice now how we can have an angle of attack out the corner where we stay on the curb. The more you turn right in this kind of car, the more you're going to get oversteer on the exit. Whereas if you just smoothly go through the corner, not a problem. And that's what a lot of people find when they're racing cars, is that they're just overturning. They're being too aggressive on the steering wheel. Reduce the aggression, just smoother steering, and you get the actual better outcome rather than the same outcome. Right, so through the left we're gone, no issues there. What I want you to do now is head over towards the right and cut a little bit of the right. So you want to attack this corner as best as you can. So I'm going to stop it right here, okay? I've just lifted as we've gone over the crest of the hill. Why have I done that? So if you lift, obviously, the weight of the car is going to shift. So accelerating, the front goes up. Lift in, car goes like that. We're going downhill, so if you still like that, it's just going to do that and understeer. If you lift just as you get to the crest of the hill, the car bounces its weight out, and as you go down here, you're going to chuck the car out. It's one of those corners, you chuck it. And as you chuck it, because the weight's like this, it's suddenly just going to go like this, right rear, and that flicks the car around. You can actually carry so much speed when you do that. So a slight lift, chuck it in, mount the curb on the inside as best as you can, lift a little bit more if you're struggling as you go through the compression there, but the compression is critical, making sure you're 100% throttle at that point, and then we can continue on through. We're going to head over towards the left-hand side now, and we're going to look for our final brake marker. So we've got the 200 board, ignore, 150, ignore, and then we get to this point here. We've got the 100 board and the tree on the right. You can use either of these, so it's after the 100 disappears off the edge of your screen, or the top of the screen, should I say, and it's after the tree leaves the edge of your screen on the right. Now, remember back on turn one, I said you could use third gear to get a bit of rotation. You could do the same right here if you want to. However, it's a little bit slower than turn one if you do it here at the end of the lap. So I would advise here just staying in fourth gear. And that's what I'm going to do in this scenario. I tried third. It does work. It does get forced rotation. But fourth gear, you can get around. It's a bit more open than turn one. So I'm going to go on the brakes, fourth gear. I'm going to start to release the brakes and turn in. Now, there's no slippy stuff on the inside. It's just the grass, but I'm just using the curb there. Just be careful on the exit. It's so easy to just hit that barrier and ruin a 2-minute lap, and it's very annoying when you do that. I didn't do that this morning, fortunately, but even so, it is still very annoying, and I've done it in the past. That's a 2:19.9. Did this very early on this morning. That was rank 2 at the time this morning. I know lap times I've improved, and look at that in Delta. So 100 board here, hit the brakes. Remember, drop down to third gear, get that rotation up to fourth gear again, continue on through the corner. Remember, +5 brake balance. You did see the graphic briefly there as we go on to this fast lap then. So we accelerate towards the next corner. Remember, we're looking for the 100 board or start of the curb. We're braking just after both of those things happen. So we hit the brakes, stay out wide a bit longer, then turn in one smooth part, straighten up the steering as best as you can on the exit to reduce any form of oversteer as you go over the crest there. We're going to continue on down. Remember, fifth, fourth, third. This is the pattern you need as you come down here. Pace barrier on the left, we then turn in. Lift off a little bit if you need to. Marshals, brake fourth gear over towards the left. brake, third gear, wide line through the corner, wider angle of attack, straightens up on the exit there, reduces any form of oversteer, although I did have a little bit of a wiggle. We continue over the bridge then. We're looking for the giveaway sign at the end before the 100, and arguably you could use the marshal as well on the right side, not them. There's a few marshals here actually, isn't it? That marshal there if you really want to use them. Again, wide angle of attack. There's a really nasty bump as you go through this corner. There it is. Just be careful of that. We're going to head over towards the left-hand side now as we go down here. So we're looking for the start of the row of trees. There's the gap. There's the row of trees. We dab the brakes a little bit now. Looking for the blue and white barriers. There they are. We can start to accelerate as we continue on through there. We can breathe a little bit now. We'll fast forward all the way to the next corner. Remember, 150 is our marker. We brake after that. We want to brake late here. We want to square off the corner. So we stay out wide longer here, then turn in. One fell swoop. We continue on through. Now, flat out through the left-hander that is coming up. And remember, cut a little bit of the right when we get to it, and then lift at just before the crest of the hill, on the crest of the hill if you really want to, and that will chuck the car left. Watch this. Lift. And then we chuck the car left, and look at this, it just settles itself, and we take a nice fast line. A lot of you are going to struggle on that corner because it's like one of those where you'll just not understand how to do it initially, and once it clicks, your lap times will just drop like that. There's so much time in that corner. And then we're going to head towards the finish line. Remember, the 100 board for the final corner, and that's a 219.9 again. What we are going to do is load Delta and see where we can improve a little bit more on this lap, because there is still time available to me. So once again, I've loaded Delta. A 219.5 is what I'm chasing right now. 4/10 of a second to find in a 2-minute lap. It's not a lot of time in a very big lap, but there are still plenty of ways to do it. So let's go straight into this then. We'll quickly skim through this because it's a very long lap. As we head towards turn 1, we're actually up here compared to the replay, which is unusual. As we go through there, we actually gain on the rank 1 there. We gain on the rank 1. So we're 0.06 at the exit. We're 0.08. So it shows that little trick works, although it looks like it's coming down a little bit. So our speed on the exit is a little bit slower. There we go. So the gap is coming down there. There is ways to keep that speed up, though. So I do recommend that little trick. Right, we're going to get towards the left-hander now. So we're 0.05 effectively as we get to this moment in time. On the brakes, we go through there. And we're 0.06. So we're doing all this very well. So my guide so far working perfectly. We get to the middle of the corner here. We're just carrying more speed. On the exit, we're losing a little bit of speed there now as we continue on down the hill. But as we go downhill, it'll get closer, and we're seeing that right now. So it's getting closer. So we go into the right, which is 5th gear, then 4th gear, then 3rd gear as we go through that. And they nail that beautifully versus my lap here. So what happens here then? So they're flat out longer. I lift off, which is what I said. Need to not lift off. So they're getting a bit of time there, which then means they're carrying a bit more speed into here. They're still carrying a bit more speed. And as we go into here, what I want to look at here specifically, and this is what Delta's good for, is the line. So they take a slightly tighter line here as we get to the bridge. I don't feel that line is beneficial. And you can see that on the exit. Look at the difference in speed. We're 1 mile an hour up there. 1 mile an hour up. So as we go across this bridge, we start to catch that up. And as I say, it's safer. It's safer to do that line. So I highly recommend it. We get to the left-hander now at the end of the bridge. We hit the brakes. We go through there. And we lost a little bit of time. Now, we did have a little bit of a wiggle there. Arguably, I don't feel like carrying too much speed there. No, I'm just losing out a little bit on that corner. Somewhere for me to improve. Now, this corner is a vital corner. Let's see how much time we lose here, because this corner can make or break a lap if you get it wrong. This is a fast right-hander before the back straight. So we're going to come into here now. So we're basically 0.09 down as we come into here. So we're on the brakes far earlier than they are. So they're carrying so much speed into this corner. And as we go through here, we get to the exit. We lose basically a 10th of a second going through there. A 10th of a second. Really interesting stuff. So on the exit here, they're just carrying a bit more speed. And they carry that all the way down the straight. So you can see that gap just ever increasing just because they're carrying that bit more speed. Very critical you get that right. Obviously, at the end of the straight, we're even because of the wall of air that hits us. So that corner is a place to focus on, okay, folks? Be a bit more aggressive. So just after the trees, potentially, rather than at the trees, as I said, that will gain me a little bit more time. Right, end of the straight then. 0.2 of a second going in. Oh, we lose a little bit of time here then. So we're on the brakes early. Again, I'm braking early on all of these laps, so I do need to improve that. We're carrying a bit more speed through the corner, and on the exit, we have lost a little bit of time there, so I do need to carry a bit more speed. Do they take a wider line? Look, it's a slightly wider line. So I did talk about this in the guide. The wider line you take, the more you can square it off, the more speed you can carry. And that's what they do. That's really interesting. So that's somewhere for me to improve. It just shows my my line is right in terms of the knowledge I'm giving off. I just need to do it a bit more. Go even wider. Attack it even more. Square it off. Right, we're going to get to the fast left now. we approach this a little bit down. We're 3/10 down. As we go through here, we lose a little bit of time. So as we get to this point, let's see what happens. I lift off more. They don't even lift off really. So they lift off, but the lowest is 29%, whereas I lift off completely. So as we go through there, they're just carrying more speed. So they're going to carry more speed then towards the final corner. So we're going to hit the brakes. So we're 0.37 down. We go through the corner and we gain a little bit at the end there. That's just due to my brake marker. But very interesting there. So I need to improve on my braking. That's definitely what I'm seeing. Critically though, a wider line at the end of the straight works wonders. I did say that. And we saw a wide line onto the bridge. Works wonders as well. So they're two critical areas, but make sure the right-hander, before going on the straight, you get that right. Be aggressive there. Be aggressive on that one corner and wide on other corners, or wide angle of attack at least, and you should be on for a really good lap. That's going to be it for me in terms of this video then, and Coach Dave Academy Gran Turismo channel this week. I do hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you leave a comment if you have any questions down there below, or feedback as well, of course. I've been Martin Grady, otherwise known as Tishney. A massive thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for some more weekly race guides, and hopefully helping you improve your driver rating that little bit more.